and analysis based upon their training and experience through the years. Joining us tonight, retired director of the San Diego PD Crime Lab, Jennifer Shen. Jennifer has 30 years of experience with law enforcement as a forensic scientist. She's an expert in police procedure regarding forensic evidence collection, preservation, processing, and storage, and spent 15 years working in active crime scenes. Also joining us, Pasadena, California, former gang homicide detective Donald Schweitzer. Donald was a police officer for 10 years. He has investigated gang homicides as a detective. He served as a member of the SWAT unit and worked various narcotics assignments. Great to have our two experts with us tonight. Let's get right to our first story tonight from KMTV in Omaha, Nebraska. A cold case solved.
A cold-blooded killing. That's how Douglas County District Court Judge Peter Battalion describes what happened at a Ralston apartment complex in October 2013. Now, 28-year-old Ricardo Escobedo Jr. is sentenced to life in prison for second-degree murder and 40 years for use of a weapon.
You know, obviously this gives us some kind of closure, and hopefully it gives the family some kind of closure. I wholeheartedly agree with John Algavin that the sentence was just, and that's what we were hoping for.
42-year-old Amy Kearns was found shot and killed inside her apartment near 84th and L Streets. A few months later, Ralston police developed a suspect, but the case went cold. Investigators got DNA samples from the scene and were able to match it to Escobedo when he was arrested for another crime, and his DNA was put into CODIS.
It's a testament to the great work of the Ralston Police Department, their follow through on this case, even though it was a case from several years ago. And it also shows how CODIS works.
Escobedo struggled to get out of the gang life and was associated with the Latin Kings. Kearns was apparently a drug runner, and the defense said she was moving more than 10 pounds of meth for the cartel, and she shorted them money. Escobedo was approached by the cartel to rob Kearns when he shot her. The convicted told the court, quote, "My sincerest condolences for the victim's family. I take full responsibility for my actions and accountability."
No one deserves to have this happen to them and their life to be taken. But certainly people should be aware that if you're in that sort of business, this is the kind of thing that happens when people try to collect debts or money for drugs.
The sentences will be served consecutively, so Escobedo will have life in prison plus 40 years, and a day he will get credit for 384 days served.
All right, it's a cold case, another one solved. How common is this is my first question. And Jennifer, I'll send this one to you. I mean, it's amazing what's happening, but how common is this?
It's actually becoming more and more common. One of the great things about DNA is, first of all, it's kind of evidence that can help identify someone, but it's also perfect to put into a database. So much of the DNA profiles in the CODIS database are from crimes where we don't know who committed them, but there's DNA left at the scene. And we put those profiles into our database, and at some time, because many people commit crimes again and again and again, that person's going to get arrested, and then we're going to figure out who they are. So it's an incredibly powerful tool, and it's being used to solve cold cases all over the country.
Donald Schweitzer, let's talk about that term, cold case. When does a case go cold?
Well, Vinny, I think this is kind of a lukewarm case in my standards. Of course, in today's day in fighting crime, it may be cold, but I don't think there's a magic number. You know, it depends on what year you're living in. If you were living in the year where I was on the streets going after gang members, this would be a lukewarm case. It's pretty amazing that we're solving crimes involving gangs using DNA evidence. Usually they were very difficult because you had no witnesses that were willing to testify. And so there was no DNA, there was no physical evidence. It was just a bullet and maybe some tire marks from the car taken off. So, you know, in today's standards, I guess this is cold, but not for me.
Jennifer, let me ask you about CODIS. And someone gets arrested, right, in certain states and jurisdictions, they're going to take a DNA sample and put it into this database. Are there any other comparisons, any other DNA that's put in this database? Are there comparisons of this DNA that is just sitting there with maybe some of these DNA ancestry type of services that are out there where you might be able to connect to maybe a relative or something? Is that sort of work being done regularly, or is that like sort of a special situation for that to happen?
That's a really great question. In the forensic laboratories, we're putting in forensic unknowns, it's DNA from crime scenes that we don't know who it belongs to, but we put that in the database. And then if someone is arrested for a felony in many states and in California, their DNA is being collected and put in the database to help solve crimes and connect cases. And if someone's an active suspect in a crime, we can take their DNA and put it in the database. The other questions you're asking about, it is possible, and it's done on special cases, to look for relatives of people who are in the database, and we can do that kind of work. And as you know, the ancestry DNA is just a whole new market of possibilities to find information about unknown DNA profiles and hopefully connect them to a family tree and therefore work your way down investigatively to an actual suspect. So it's just a really exciting time in DNA, and we are solving cases right and left.
Yeah, and this case was solved. He admitted what he did, and he's locked up as a result. All right, let's take a look at our next case tonight. This comes from KRIS in Corpus Christi, Texas. And this is some shocking video. You've got an officer versus a truck.
We have some dramatic video. A pickup truck hitting cars, almost hitting a police officer, and that officer firing his gun. Well, it all happened around 8 last night at SPID in Everhart. Officers were trying to pull over that truck, but the driver had other ideas. He hit a stopped car, then a police car before driving towards an officer. That officer opened fire on the truck. There's no word on if the driver got hit or not. The truck hit a third car while driving off, and police are still looking for it and the driver. When they catch him, they'll charge him with aggravated assault on a police officer.
All right, this is a difficult situation for this officer, but is there any way to stop this driver without killing him? Donald Schweitzer, let me start with you on that. Right, you've got a driver that's not cooperating, trying to get out, banging into cars. Is there a way to stop that vehicle without shooting and killing the driver?
Well, Vinny, of course, there's other ways, and we see this on TV all the time, especially here in Los Angeles, where it's almost a weekly thing where we're watching a car trying to evade police officers, and there's various things that they do, such as laying out nails beds, on the road to stop and puncture the tires, and you see cars being used as blockades and things of that nature. In this particular situation, this officer didn't do the right thing by running after the car. It was very poor tactics. I don't mean to be so judgmental, because in the heat of the moment, things like this happen. But once the car is headed towards you as an officer or towards somebody else, and you're going to be attacking them, then maybe the gun was the only thing to do. We don't really know because the camera doesn't show the full angle.
Yeah, a difficult situation, Jennifer, for this officer because you got someone who's not cooperating. We see this very often, and it's almost like a catch-22 for the officer, because if he shoots and kills the motorist, there could be outrage because of that. And then if he gets away, and we saw this last night, if he gets away and then gets into an accident, he could harm someone else down the road. This is a tough spot.
It is a tough spot, but I mean, it is recognized that a motor vehicle is considered a deadly weapon, and our officers are out there on the street trying to protect themselves and our citizens. And if someone is going to drive a vehicle at an officer with the intent to hit or run over that officer, that is a problem, and officers have a right to defend themselves.
Yeah, Donald, that's the other part of this, isn't it? That the fact, if we don't know if he was struck or not, but if he was, that's a justified shooting.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't want to sound like the officer wasn't justified. We don't really know because of the angle of the camera, but he's following after the car, and it looks like the car is ramming into other cars and causing a real threat to other people, including himself. So, at first blush, it looks like it was justified.
All right, we got a lot more to talk about. Now, Donald, I just want to confirm, you're a former SWAT guy, right?
Right.
Okay, coming up on Crime Time, we've got a standoff in San Diego, California. a SWAT standoff. This is a difficult one. This is a suspect who actually wants to get shot and killed by police. We'll show you what happened when we come back.
So we were trapped in the restaurant for about an hour, and we finally were able to come out, but our car is parked like right in front of the shooting. So yeah, we're not sure exactly what's going on at this moment.
An extremely dramatic standoff in San Diego, California. And this is a really difficult one because you've got a suspect who is armed in a shootout with police, but it's someone who wants to die. And you've heard this term before, suicide by cop. It's way too common an occurrence. So now you've got SWAT, responding to this, getting information. They've got a guy shooting at them, but it's a guy who actually wants to die. How do you resolve this situation? Let me reintroduce who we have with us tonight for our Crime Time segment. Jennifer Shen and Donald Schweitzer with us. Let's get to our next story. This comes to us from KGTV in San Diego, California. It's a SWAT standoff.
Police units laying siege surrounding an armed man that's barricaded himself inside this building on the corner of 4th and Robinson in Hillcrest.
So we were trapped in the restaurant for about an hour, and we finally were able to come out, but our car is parked like right in front of the shooting. So yeah, we're not sure exactly what's going on at this moment.
A broken window seen on the west end of the building. The situation escalating after police say the shooter fired at them, forcing officers to return fire. None of the bullets caused any harm. Workers at a nearby building hearing the gunshots before being evacuated by police.
We were confused. There was a lot of adrenaline. We were just grabbing the essentials and getting out of there.
Police say they were called to this building Thursday morning after the suspect contacted them, threatening to hurt himself and saying he wanted to commit suicide by cop, triggering the intense hours-long standoff lasting into the night. Around 7:15, loud bangs could be heard. Former San Diego Police SWAT Commander Ray Shea talked with 10 News over the phone. He couldn't say for sure what the sounds were, but says it could be part of the negotiating tactic.
And they may just stop talking and you want to get their attention, so you may use some sound diversionary devices, or you may want to just pound on a door if you want to re-engage communication with the person.
Adding the longer it lasts, the better.
Evidently, the person is communicating, which is so important. And statistically, the longer the person communicates, the more likelihood it is that it'll end safely.
And in this case, it did end safely for everyone involved. And my question is, are you surprised that they were able to arrest this man alive? Donald Schweitzer, let me start with you. Former SWAT guy and all this. Are you shocked? This is someone who called and said, I want to die, I want to commit suicide by cop, yet police amazingly able to apprehend this guy safely.
Well, Vinny, I would say yes and no. I'm shocked to the extent that police officers who are under fire are going to want to protect themselves and protect all the people in that neighborhood. And it's basically warfare at the time that these bullets are flying. We got to remember that down in San Diego, there was a SWAT officer killed in the line of duty in a very similar situation like this. So these officers are not going to take chances. So I'm shocked by that. But then again, San Diego has a very professional SWAT team, and they must have very good people on board that are talking people off of the cliff, so to speak. So, kudos to them, because this could have easily been a dead man that would have gotten his wish. I'm really amazed by the professionalism of this SWAT team.
Jennifer Shen, you're from San Diego. That's your home ground down there. Amazing job here because, again, this is someone whose whole mission was to have police shoot and kill him.
Yeah, and I echo the sentiments that the San Diego Police Department as a whole and the SWAT team, they are incredibly professional, and it's their goal every day, day after day, in these kinds of situations to walk out with everyone okay. And that's our officers, and that's our, the people that we are dealing with. And this person obviously was mentally traumatized in some way, and the goal is always to come to a resolution where that person can be given the help that he or she needs in order to get past this time. So it is a really, really professional job. But I have to tell you, being from there, I am not surprised.
Donald Schweitzer, we heard one of the citizens